What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of the Season Monroe Show. I am your host, and today we're here to talk about Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. And spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. I have to say that a few times just so, and to give you guys a little minute to get up out of here if you need to. An Avenger does die in this film. So let's get into this film. The beginning of the film is kind of like, we've seen it already. You've seen the trailer, so you kind of understand what's going to happen. And that's pretty much the beginning of the film. Like the first 10 minutes is kind of seen in the trailers already. So it's really nothing to spoil there. But there was an element in the film that I liked, and that was the introduction of Kang. You kind of see that Janet was in the quantum realm before Kang arrived, and how they got introduced to each other. And that's how we got introduced to Kang in this film. Now, the weird part about this, later on in the film, is like they were trying to keep this mystique about him. And they were using his name. They didn't say Kang. They kept calling him the Conqueror, right? But if you're trying to keep a mystique about a character, and by the way, he's not really in it until like the second half of the film. You're trying to keep a mystique about a character. Don't introduce us to this character in the beginning of the film. Don't use his name while trying to keep this mystique, because it makes no sense. I feel like they could have worked on that a little bit more. So that was like the main thing that was kind of weird that they were doing. And again, I got where they were trying to go with it, but it just didn't work for me. So later on, we get introduced to Modoc, and Modoc is the one that received the signal from Cassie, right? He's there, he's helping Kang because he's like Kang's minion in this film. The problem I have with this is, again, it was just how their relationship was formed. I felt like everything was just rushed. We didn't really get an understanding of what happened to Modoc or Darren Cross to make him Modoc in this film. We didn't get an understanding of Kang at all. And again, I understand what's going on. I'll read the comments. We kind of understand already. But I'm looking at it from a person that does not read the comics and looking to be introduced to these characters in this film. I don't feel like they did a good job explaining who Kang was. I think they did an even worse job trying to get us into all these characters that's in the quantum realm. I just feel like everything was rushed, and I feel like the 2-hour runtime, I feel like that was very constricted to, and that kind of messed up everything, because trying to introduce a whole new world on top of whole new characters, and you have a 2-hour span, it's not going to go well. And honestly, there was a lot of battle scenes. I don't want to say fight scenes because they weren't really fight scenes. They were just big battle scenes. Kind of reminded me of Star Wars a lot. And I don't know if you guys know this. I'm not a big Star Wars guy. The characters in this film and the worlds in this film kind of reminded me of Star Wars. And the fact that these are both Disney properties, I don't know why we're bringing these elements into this film. Not saying that it was bad elements, I just feel like you're going to take away from this other prominent property that you have, and that's not good for business. So I don't know what they're trying to do there. And I don't know if you guys seen the movie Strange World. It was another Disney cartoon that they had. A lot of these creatures in this film reminded me of the Disney cartoon. It was just leftover things, and I feel like these are leftover sets from like The Mandalorian and Strange World, and they kind of just collided them together and was like, you know what? This is going to be the quantum realm. That was the explanation we got, you know? Marvel, we got to do better. Like Disney, I don't know what's going on over there. We talked about this. We can't afford another loss. So we have Phase 4 that was trash up until Black Panther, and a lot of people didn't like Black Panther like that. I'm not going to say they didn't like it. I feel like they didn't enjoy it as much as I did. They wouldn't say it was trash, but they would definitely pass on the film if they had a chance again, I guess, if that makes sense. And then we have this starting off Phase 5. And then next we have Guardians, which I already know is going to be a disappointment. Again, we'll see in a couple months. You guys can go ahead, leave it in the comments. Hey, Siege, you were wrong about this. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I am absolutely wrong about this, but seeing it and looking at the patterns it's not looking good. But I guess we'll see. Let's get back to the movie. Let's talk about the characters that we were introduced to. This character, Quasar. When they casted him, it was like he was going to be a definitive character. Like, he's going to be very important. He's going to lead to something. And maybe down the line he does. But I just feel like, again, we were setting our tones in the trailer. And we're setting our tones with these articles saying how this is an Avenger level event and this is what we received. That's where I kind of didn't understand, and I appreciate these characters being thrown in there because they weren't needed at all. They weren't needed, not even a little bit. And this story kind of was just everywhere. Kind of like this review. This movie was everywhere, and I felt like they didn't take the time to sit down and actually pin this out. Peyton Reed is a great director. From what I've seen, he is a great director, and he's done a good job with the Ant-Man series so far. It's just this one kind of missed the mark. Kang, introducing him the way that they introduced him, I felt like he should have been a bit more menacing. Kind of like Ultron. We were worried about Ultron in Avengers Age of Ultron until he started cracking jokes. And I felt like Kang was that guy. And they would crack a joke and it kind of deviated from the seriousness a little bit. And honestly, the fact that Ant-Man was able to keep up with Kang with all the knowledge that he has and the experience, I felt like that was a problem I had as well. Cassie's character, thrown into this idea that she's some type of scientist and she's creating these things. Again, build up to that. And we get built up to the family dynamic between Cassie, Hank, Janet, of course, Scott. You kind of, it's kind of weird, you know, and of course Hope as well. But it was kind of weird because it's like we've just been out of the loop, which is fine, but don't make it about these people and not give us more insight of how these relationships worked, if that makes sense. It's not like I want a drama film. I don't need everything explained, but don't just throw things in a bowl and call it a salad. Like we could have worked towards this, and I feel like we missed the mark on those things. And those are simple things that writers do and put in films for us to understand. So it's not just me, honestly, talking to other people about this. I just felt like the stories were everywhere, and there was nothing really tangible to build on. So besides the characters, let's get into the battle scenes. I want to say the action scenes. The action scenes, again, seemed very Star Wars. I didn't appreciate them. I didn't appreciate the battle scenes. The fight scene between Ant-Man and Kang was lackluster. I kind of feel like it left us underwhelmed. You didn't feel the stakes in this film. And for this to be an Avengers level event, and the fact that we know who Kang is, and again, I can't say we do because, again, you don't even know what's going on with this guy. You don't understand anything. You see he's shooting blue power out of his hands. He has this mask, this helmet. You kind of don't understand where that's coming from. He has these devices on his arms that move things in a way, and there's no explaining. And then there's another part in the film where Kang is explaining that there's something worse out there. If he doesn't do what he does, there's a lot worse out there. Again, that was the mystique, and I didn't need them to hint towards who it was. I feel like it's a Galactus, but that's neither here nor there. But the mystique of that was great. They just delivered it bad. And the fact that we don't understand who Kang is, we don't understand what he does. It's like introducing Thanos in Avengers 1 and throw the Infinity Stone story out the window, and he's here and he's grabbing his stuff and he's about to snap these people away. It's like Infinity War storyline in Avengers 1. That's kind of what this movie was. I feel like that's a great explanation of this. It was something that we didn't know about, that wasn't built up on. It was just thrown in there, and that's what we received. So doing these battle scenes, Modoc has a change of heart, and he starts working with Ant-Man. And one of the lines in there is like, I'm happy Oh, I'm sorry. He gets defeated, and one of the lines in there is like, "I'm happy. I'm going to be able to die an Avenger," and they're just like, "What?" He was like, "You know what? Yeah, he's about to go, so we're just going to agree." Yeah, you know. And I thought that was like the most hilarious part in the film. Again, without context, going back to who Darren Cross was in the original Ant-Man movie, and now he's Modoc. As far as Avengers and as far as his relationship with Kang, did Kang tell him stories about the Avengers? Did he know about the Avengers? And when did he realize that Scott was an Avenger? Because again, these people are in the quantum realm. They don't know anything about anything that's going on outside of this. So again, I could be picking, but I feel like that was one of those things where it was like, but I enjoyed the joke. So at the end of the film, they defeat Kang, they go back home, and now Scott is worried about this other threat that Kang was speaking of. They don't get into it at all. Credits roll, mid-credit scene, they show the council of Kangs. And from my understanding, it was just like 10 or 15 that were in this council. But in this mid-credit scene, they were showing like hundreds of thousands of variants of Kang. And I felt like that was a little misunderstood as well. They show Ramen Tut. And if for you guys that don't know, Ramen Tut is like the original Kang. And honestly, I'm ready for that storyline because Ramen Tut was Pharaoh. He was reigning in Egypt when Apocalypse was there, and Apocalypse was the slave in Egypt. So if they put that storyline together and kind of introduce the X-Men that way, they probably won't because it makes too much sense. But I feel like that would be really dope. But again, they're just throwing these characters on screen and just hoping you either read a comic or patient enough to wait to figure out what the hell is going on, because it's very confusing. Even to me that know a little bit about this character, it's kind of just thrown everywhere. So you have Ramen Tut, you have Immortus, and you have this other version of Kang that I'm not too sure who he is, but I guess we'll see later on. They show them in the mid-credit scene. The last end credit scene was an introduction to Loki season 2, and you see He Who Remains as he's explaining something back in the 1500s, and I feel like it's going to make a good Loki season 2. But as far as film wise, I feel like these are some of the things you guys could have been doing in this film. And Loki season 2 could have been a little bit more of something else. Again, we have so many variants of Kang. We could have been working on something else. And building on Kang the Conqueror in this film would have been a much better idea. But now it seems like we're trying to push people over to Disney Plus, which if they do it this way is going to work, but they're going to lose a lot of the box office dollars. And that's your bread and butter. Let's be real, Disney Plus is a side chick. And we have to stop trying to feed and take care of that because we're hurting the bread and butter. All right. So again, let me know what you guys think. Are you seeing it this weekend? Do you feel what I'm saying is accurate? Honestly, I give this movie a 5 out of 10. Again, it had elements that I enjoyed, but I don't know. I feel like they really missed the mark with this one. Again, I don't know what's going on over there at Marvel, but Gore, the God Butcher, you killed him off in Thor: Love and Thunder, and I felt like that was just the worst depiction of Gore. And then with Kang, you allow, out of all people, Ant-Man to defeat him, even after all of his experience in the field over thousands of years. This is what happens. By the way, and I don't feel that Kang is defeated. I feel like when they defeated him, it looked like he was taken into another realm, like he went through a portal of some sort. And that was another thing in the mid-credit scene, is they were mentioning that he was dead, so on and so forth. But it just, I don't know. It was everywhere, guys. And that's why I'm everywhere with this review, because the movie was kind of everywhere. Even the way that Janet found out that Kang was evil, or Kang was who he was and what he does, I felt like that was just thrown in there. It wasn't really it wasn't really a well thought out film. It wasn't a really well thought out plot. And that definitely wasn't a well thought out scene. Like, oh, his brain is connected to this chair, so when I touched it, I seen what he did. No. Come on, guys. We could do better than that. We could have worked on that just a smidget better. All right. And I wonder where this is going to lead and where we are as far as Loki season 2 and how far are we into Loki season 1 where this is happening. I wonder if things are happening concurrently. And honestly, I feel when he got defeated is when in Loki season 1, the branches started to break out again, which is amazing. So if they can keep that going, I feel like that'll be good. But in all, I give this movie a 5. They have to do better writing. I feel like my imagination of this film was a lot bigger than what this film actually was. And I feel like they could have taken it a little bit more seriously. Like the writing was definitely, they dropped the ball on the writing for sure. They dropped the ball on the CGI, which they've been doing for years now. We got to do better work, guys. Now we have Guardians coming next, and I feel like that's going to be a waste as well. But either way, hopefully they get us. We still have Secret Invasion, and I feel like that's going to be amazing. We still have Loki season 2. I feel like that's going to be decent. So let's see what we have, all right? I'm your boy C's. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.